It's Sam from SIG OnTheGo Physical Crowdsourcing, here to give my quarterly recap video. So, where to start? At the beginning of the quarter, being a new project in the SIG and kind of not having a place to build off of, there was a lot of freedom. There was definitely a lot of freedom in which direction we wanted to go collectively moving forward. And we kind of iterated through a bunch of ideas. The first one was this big idea that we would try to implement an on-the-go groceries application. So we would try to learn more about what makes on-the-go physical crowdsourcing difficult. Kind of in previous projects that Yongsung has conducted, certain aspects of the task being completed. So like of the package delivery or of looking for an item. They were kind of magic wanded away, and we were kind of saying, okay, let's make this really unrealistically convenient to study other aspects of the system. So I think what we narrowed in on is trying to study these things like, okay, well, we know these interesting things now, but maybe what does make these kinds of on the go tasks inconvenient, and how can we make them more convenient in a way that we lay out guidelines for people who are trying to design their own on the go systems. Um, and I'll get more into the specifics on that in a second. But yeah, we worked on this idea with the groceries, and we kind of realized our big problem was that all of our reasoning and our need finding was very spacious, very ill supported. Our design arguments were difficult to come up with because we didn't really have much evidence for them. Need finding was difficult because you can't just ask people about these kinds of systems. You can't say, for example, okay, you're passing by Sherbucks, the Starbucks on Sherman. Would you, if you were notified, walk in and grab a latte for somebody? Like, nobody can actually accurately get into that mindset. And you can ask better questions than that, maybe. But yeah, I think generally we realized that before we could really make some solid design arguments, it would take some tech and it would take some iteration. So that's exactly after an attempt at writing the URG, what we kind of ended up doing is it turned from this kind of very vague idea, and I feel like now after having built all the tech um, to test, I have a much clearer idea of what I want to be looking at, what I want to be researching, and the questions I'm trying to answer. So, so without further ado, what did I build? So, our idea for a very kind of limited basic system that would illustrate a lot of the interesting parts that we wanted to research of inconvenience in on-the-go systems was a coffee delivery app. So we have this simple prototype here. It's running on an MLab backend, a Node server, and you can sign in with your name. Press caffeinate me, so that's to order coffee. You set when the latest time you can accept this coffee is. So maybe it's an hour from then about. In the future, this isn't ideal to have a little menu on the bottom. That's very hacky, but for short-term testing, we found that it was good enough. So you order, and if you come over here, if everything's working properly, you'll see that there's a new request down here for Sam for a cappuccino, and it needs to be picked up within 65 minutes, right? So what can you do with that then? Well, at this point, if you are a user who is walking by, and let's just go ahead and simulate that right here through Xcode. So there we go. You're a user who's walking by, and you're kind of on your phone. So let's see. You walk past a coffee shop, and bang, you get a notification that Sam needs coffee. Please pick up a cappuccino from Kresge Starbucks. And clicking through on it, you have some options, and yeah, you can pick up the coffee. And at which point, if you look back in the database, the field for whether or not the request was accepted is changed to true, and then future users who pass other coffee shops won't be notified for that requester, which makes sense, right? Because you don't want to deliver the same coffee twice. So yeah, this was done a little bit later in the quarter. because like I said, we didn't really have an idea what we wanted to do for a while. It took us a while to get to the point where we were building tech, and this is kind of what we pushed out to people in the lab, and we were really excited about it. But what we found is that there were certain aspects of the app that made it generally a bit unusable practically, even as an MVP, because people were very reluctant to order coffee without knowing what the price was. Actually, in the version we pushed out, you didn't have even these prices down here. You just ordered coffee by a description. So there were a few reasons that we didn't get very much usage, and therefore we weren't able to uh, conduct the user interviews that we had prepared, that we were going to use to iterate on our design arguments, come up with you know come up with more refined ideas on exactly what makes this whole delivery thing hard. Like where are the problems that need to be solved exactly? And if the people aren't requesting the coffee with the app, then it's hard to get at those questions. So yeah, that's kind of the tech stack that we've developed so far. It's working pretty well, and there are definitely a lot of avenues we could take to make it better. Um, yeah, I think moving forward, what I'd really like to do is really conduct these user interviews, get some clearer need finding on exactly what the research questions we want to solve are, exactly what design arguments we want to iterate on and that we're most excited about and enthusiastic about as solutions to those problems. Uh, and yeah, I think I wish that there was another week in the quarter or so that I could have pushed out the next version of this app and really got to the substantial testing. But yeah, this is where we are right now, and I'm very happy with the progress that was made on our project. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. So thank you. Was I not recording? Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. Hey, so there's just a few things that I'd like to kind of go back over and uh, discuss that I feel like I might have missed going and making the video the first time. So specifically with respect to the design arguments, specifically that we're thinking about testing and that we're really excited about in this project right now. So we kind of the whole idea of the project is that in on-the-go systems there's some minimum level of convenience, and then if something becomes too inconvenient, if the task is too inconvenient, helpers will not carry it out. So the question becomes, what kind of mechanisms can you put into place, and what kind of things do you need to consider to keep these interactions as convenient as possible? So to do that, you need to understand what makes it inconvenient in the first place. And while the user testing would have helped on that, we came up with some ideas like the information deficiency cost, which is the term we use to describe this idea that maybe a task isn't so hard, but a user, a helper who doesn't know exactly how to carry it out, doesn't have all the info he needs. So like maybe the task is going into Target and buying a light bulb, but it's not inherently very difficult to do, especially if you know where the light bulbs are. But if you're told to do that and you don't have that context with you, then it suddenly becomes quite tedious. You have to ask an employee, and you have to then, uh, well, I guess that's really the extent of the added inconvenience. But it would make you significantly less likely to take on the task. So we looked at maybe providing contextual information there, and I'm still actually really excited about that one. But kind of the direction we moved in uh, is this idea of coordination cost. So it's very difficult for users to coordinate uh, in these kinds of systems. And an idea that was thrown around is, what if we could take some of the inconvenience that's on the helper and push it onto the requester. So what if kind of the requester met the helper halfway? So if, for example, maybe the requester goes downstairs and meets the person delivering the item instead of having that person try to find them. So just kind of things in that arena of being able to mitigate the inconvenience on the helper, because this is a special kind of system. We're not talking about Postmates or Uber. We're talking about voluntary contributions and opportunistic contributions. So people might not do the task if the requester doesn't take these steps to mitigate the inconvenience. So going forward, the design arguments that I'm most excited about, I think, are finding ways to take the inconvenience that's on the helper and push it onto the requester. And that is really moving forward with our tech prototypes and our studies, exactly what I would like to test before anything else. And I think that's the first step into gaining new insights on yeah, the hard parts of these systems and on refining our design arguments. So thank you.